Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on Superman Lois Season 4. Today we're going to be breaking down the San Diego Comic Con panel, which Tyler and Bitsy, as well as the showrunners of Season 4, attended. I've got a full breakdown. I've made bullet point notes about everything that was important to do with Season 4 and also a bit to do with the past few seasons. So I've got you covered in this video for those of you guys like myself who weren't at San Diego Comic Con. So without further ado, if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so we're going to break it down bit by bit, talk about some of the quotes. Now, I haven't pulled out like the exact quote for every single sentence. I just basically picked out the important parts that I think you guys are interested in. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So the first thing that I wanted to mention was there was talk to do with the Superman suit and how it was fit and everything. You can watch the video, which is linked in the description below, to see how Tyler described how he had to get his suit fit when he first became Superman and with the various versions of the suit. But after he said that, Bitsy jumped in and said there is a very cool detail on the suit for Season 4 that I hope people don't miss. Keep an eye out. Now, this got people questioning what is she talking about online, because the detail can be just, you know, a small adjustment to the suit, maybe because Superman's suit has been destroyed, as you've seen in the trailers and the sneak peek. His cape is completely torn off, it's floating in space, so there's going to be a new cape, right? And his costume has been torn to shreds, so he's definitely going to get a new suit for Season 4, but I wonder what this detail could be. Obviously, people were speculating online that we're going to see him in a black suit. I don't know logically how can they explain that, you know, someone's created a black suit for him or he's found it maybe in the fortress. Those could be some reasons, but there's going to be something specifically, it seems, to do with the normal suit that's going to have a cool detail that we should keep an eye on. But let's move on to the next thing. So they were asked, how did you approach what you wanted to do in this final story? So Brent Fletcher, the new co-showrunner of Season 4, had to say this: before the writers came back from the strike, we had an idea for the end of the show, and we knew what the beginning of the season was going to be, Death of Superman. We didn't have to worry about carrying stuff over to future seasons. We could do something and live with it. Every episode had something that we really got excited about. So by the end of it, we got to episode 10 and we were really happy with the landing. So that is Brent Fletcher talking about the ending of the show and how they had to deal with the 10 episode restrictions and things like that. So they knew for a while that they were going to do the Death of Superman as the opening story of the season. And so continuing on from this, they say, knowing that this was the last season was a blessing, as we're one of the only Superman live action properties that knew they were going to end. Everybody else got cancelled or ended in the past, and so that's talking about different shows, and I don't really know the Superman projects that he's specifically referring to. Obviously Krypton got cancelled as well. That was a more recent example of a Superman related project being cancelled. But yeah, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. At least they were told, okay, this is your final season, you got this much time to prepare, the writers are coming back in, make a good story, end it properly. And yeah, you've got bigger restrictions in terms of like your old cast, they're not all going to be there for every episode, so work with this, and they were able to figure stuff out. And so continuing on this, Bitsy says they're grateful to be able to wrap up the show properly, and she knows people are upset it only lasted 4 seasons, but she is confident that the DCU is in good hands with James and Peter Safran. Like, she emphasized that point at that moment in the panel, and I think that's good to do. Like, she's very open and honest about everything. She reads a lot online, and she knows that fans like myself would have loved to see Superman Lois continue on beyond Season 4, but it was out of their hands. And so to do with the Death of Superman story that's going to open Season 4, that's what we saw in yesterday's sneak peek. I made a video on that. If you missed that, go check it out. It's up on the channel right now. And so they said this is Todd Helbing: we wanted to put our own stamp on it. We threw it into the Superman Lois blender, and we have the benefit of having 3 seasons of a lot of hours of television. You know, everybody in Smallville, the kids, the family, so emotionally we could lean into the story in any way as a feature you can't really do that. So he's talking about feature film. So that's what we relied on, and I think it's really powerful and moving, talking about the death of Superman story arc and how with the episodic format of Superman Lois, they were able to basically make everything work in a way that it was very emotional, and they could involve all the characters properly in a way that an hour and 30 to maybe 2 hours and a half long film maybe isn't always able to go into the nitty-gritty of the emotions for one specific moment like Superman dying. So I like this comment, and it's true that we know so much about these characters. Season 4, you don't need to go back into, you know, introducing anyone. Like, we already met Lex. Yes, there might be a few extra people that are going to be introduced who are like maybe some of the minions of Lex, but that's pretty much it this season. So the moderator said this, and the moderator actually saw episode 1 already, so this is very important. So he was basically asking the questions to the panelists, and he said there is a scene at the end of the first episode back. They showed a bit of it referring to the trailer, and there is a cutaway to some witnesses, and you feel the loss of mankind. It's really beautiful. So that's definitely in reference to the scene where everyone finds Superman dead. So Superman will somehow make his way back to Earth, whether he's dead or not by that point. Maybe Steel or Superboy bring him back from floating up in space on an asteroid or wherever he is, and he's actually brought down back to Earth. And so I believe that's what he's referring to, and he's saying that there is a cutaway to the witnesses seeing Superman being dead on the ground, and it's really like a moment where basically everyone loses hope, because that is the world's hero. He's actually dead, and that's almost surreal, right? So let's move on to the next bit, talking about Michael Cudlitz as Lex Luthor. So his rage is justified as he was convicted for something he didn't do. This is Brent Fletcher talking about Lex Luthor's motivation, and he says a villain who's got a real beef is the best villain, and I completely agree with this statement. That's what I like about this Lex. It's because he actually was wrongly imprisoned despite doing so many terrible things in his past. So he actually blames his time in prison on Lois, because Lois heavily reported on what he was doing, and she was actually one of the ones to leak the voice audio recording that we heard last season that was altered, and that's what put Lex in prison. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see the way that they handle him, because his beef is truly real, and once he gets rid of Superman, he's going to set his sights on Lois next. So the twists and turns of this season, and seeing who he's paired up with, talking about Lex, and seeing what his plans are, is really compelling. This is the co-showrunner Brent Fletcher. He said that about Lex. So we know for a fact that they're going to be introducing 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 allies of Lex Luthor, including Amanda McCoy, played by the actor Yvonne Chapman, who you guys may know from Kung Fu, but she's going to be in a couple of episodes, and she's going to have a big role to play. And so he's going to be paired up with various allies that are going to work together to stop Superman and stop Lois. And Brent confirms, yeah, there's going to be twists and turns this season. It's not going to be all very straight and exactly what you imagine. So that's something to look forward to. So the last thing to do with the panel before we go into the Q&A section of the panel, where the audience got to ask questions to the cast and crew, Todd said this, talking about the Superman Lois cast and the fact that almost all of the other characters who are not the Kent family members or Lex Luthor were downgraded from being series regulars. Everybody who's been on the show is in the show, and everybody has their storylines wrapped up by the end of the season. He kept it short but sweet, confirming every single major actor and every single major character who has been a big part of Superman Lois over the last couple of years is going to be in this final season. Now, I'm not talking about Lucy Lane and some of these other people, like maybe Talrow or someone, but we're talking about the people who were series regulars before. So like Kyle, Lana, Sarah, John Henry Irons, Natalie, all those people, they're all going to be coming back, and their storylines are going to be wrapped up properly by the end of the season. And as they said earlier in the panel, that was the blessing in disguise, that they got to actually plan how to end these stories despite having all these restrictions. So I think they've definitely figured it out. And by looking at the quality of that sneak peek, yes, it was very CGI heavy, but it was a very good scene. Like, there's many shots in that trailer that people are not going to forget about for a long time, as Superman fights Doomsday at the start of season 4. But also the trailer with footage from the first couple of episodes, it looks so convincing. So I'm really looking forward to the season despite all the changes. So let's get into the last part of this video. So some Q&A questions from some of the audience members talking to Tyler, Bitsy and the showrunners. So the first question was, what was your raw reaction when you put on the Superman suit for the first time? So there was a long answer from Tyler, so I just picked out a few different things to mention. So he said, I got a bit giddy, it was cool, and the very first time was 8 years ago on Supergirl. Actually, fun fact guys, today, 8 years ago, was when they first released that poster, which featured Supergirl and Superman. So Melissa Benoist's Supergirl, and then also Tyler's Superman for the first time together, side by side. It's a great image. And that's actually 8 years ago today. That's crazy how fast time has gone by. And so he goes on to say, it was a very surreal experience and I'm glad it wasn't a one and done, because he was pretty sure that, you know, he could have been in it just for a short time, as Tyler was cast in Supergirl as Superman just for 2 episodes initially. And so the next question was, are you willing to appear in the future movies with Superwoman? So Bitsy replied to this because the question was directed at her, and she said, hell yes, I am. And that's actually something we've talked about for a while on the channel. Could Lois become Superwoman? Because in the comics she does become Superwoman, and so it would be really cool if they ever got to that in the DCU, to bring back Bitsy and make her play Superwoman. Not just play Lois, but like an alternate version of Lois. That would be great. Now the next question was this: how much planning did you have to do to get to season 4 and the death of Superman? So the answer was this: we definitely had talked about it. If we did do the death of Superman, can we do the reign of Superman? And this is super interesting guys, because here he actually confirms they're doing the reign of Superman, but in their own way. So this is what he said. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but we had to do our own version of these stories, and just because the parameters we were given for the final season is a little bit different than maybe if we had continued on as we originally planned, which is a very important thing, that they wanted to continue Superman Lois beyond season 4. He continues to say, but we still give a really cool version of both of those stories. So referring to the death of Superman, which you mentioned, as well as the reign of the Supermen. So there you go guys, it's confirmed Superman Lois is doing their own version of the reign of the Supermen. We can talk about that more in future videos. Obviously this is more to do with the overall picture of season 4 and what they teased at the panel, but we'll get into that a bit more. But that is super exciting. So that means Steel is going to be important. Jordan's probably going to become Superboy. You potentially could have Tauro coming back as the Eradicator, and you could also introduce Cyborg Superman to the story, which would be great, and that would be a way to see Tyler once again. And so Brent Fletcher jumped in and said it was part of the pitch for season 3, talking about the death of Superman, which bled into season 4, so we kind of got a season and a half worth of a pitch. So he's saying season 4 almost is like half of the pitch that they originally did for season 3. So if you add season 3 and 4 together, it would be like 1.5 seasons basically, because season 4 is shorter than I guess they would have liked. Okay, so let's move on to the last question, and someone in the audience asked this: what Justice League characters would you like to add to Superman Lois? And in response to that, Todd Helbing actually said this: I would definitely have Grant come. You work with a lot of these actors and they become your friends. Obviously Todd actually previously worked on 2 seasons as the showrunner of The Flash, so he's very good friends with Grant. And then he says, Melissa is Supergirl to me, Flash is Grant, so I would bring everybody over. So that was his response, that he would have loved to brought in the Arrowverse actors once again, bring them back as their characters. Obviously they made the strong decision, the bold decision to not set Superman Lois on Earth Prime, despite having references to Earth Prime and the other Arrowverse characters in season 1 with John Diggle featured. And so since that point, we've not really had anyone else, just John Diggle show up, but that was confirmed to be an alternate version of John from Superman Lois's Earth. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. Of course, it would have been great to see Grant and Melissa on the show. I mean, there is going to hopefully be a couple of good surprises. as we head towards the end of Superman Lois's final season. We know that Tom Cavanagh is supposed to show up as some form of either Eobard Thawne or Harrison Wells, or he could potentially play a whole new character. We'll have to wait and see, but it would have been great to see Grant and Melissa involved in Superman Lois. But that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.